Whatever you do, do not draft these players. Welcome back into the Dynasty Nerds YouTube page. I am Garret Price. And okay, so maybe the intro was a little dramatic, but I really don't want to draft these guys, especially at the ADP that we are looking at right now. I think these guys, for dynasty purposes and super flex leagues, are just bad values right now. And that's really what we're looking at. It's not that I hate these players, and it's not that I wouldn't take these players under any circumstances. Sometimes guys fall down in draft boards and they might fall to a value where I'd be comfortable taking them. But if it's close to where they're being taken right now, I just don't see the value in these four players. First off the board, Najee Harris, Pittsburgh Steelers running back. Yes, young, talented running back. Why would you not want that in your dynasty leagues? Well, in super flex drafts, his current ADP is 10. He is the 10th player off the board. Now, for me, I am extremely hesitant to take any running back in the first round, partly because I want the value of being able to get quarterbacks. You need these solid quarterbacks. So, guys, obviously, top three guys like Mahomes, Allen, Justin Herbert, but even the next tier of the Joe Burrows, the Dak Prescotts, Lamar, Kyler Murray, like those types of players, I want to snag those guys. After that, I want guys that I'm going to feel confident are going to be on my team for a long time. And even though Najee Harris is only going into a second season, he's already 24 years old. So he's much older than running backs in the same class that are 22 or maybe 23. He's already in his age 24 season by a significant margin. So I can't touch him at that value. Plus, I have concerns just moving forward, period, for Najee Harris to be a guy that can be this top end running back. On points per game last year, because everybody gives you the end of the season stats, but on a points per game basis, with guys that played 8 or more games, he was actually RB7. So he wasn't this top 5 guy that we were talking about. He was actually RB7. And if you were to take away some of these receiving stats, because they were inflated because of Ben Roethlisberger. Anytime you have these older quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, they love to check it down. It's a smart move. But now they have a young rookie quarterback in there who is not going to check it down nearly as often. So if we regress to the average of the top 16 running backs on targets last year, include some of the higher end guys like Austin Eckler, but also include some lower end guys like Nick Chubb. If you take the average of all the guys in the top 16 from last season, that would put him, just from taking those targets away, how that would affect his receiving numbers, that would move him to roughly RB12 or 13 based on just the regression in targets. Top of that, they did nothing to address this offensive line in the offseason, which was one of the bottom tier offensive lines. And Ben Roethlisberger made, even though he doesn't have the arm that he used to, he made a lot of good decisions. He got the ball out quicker than almost any other quarterback in the NFL last year. Young rookie quarterbacks take a longer time to process. That's killing more drives. That's killing opportunities for him to get the ball. I don't think he's going to be able to be that high end, top 3, top 5 running back this year. I think we're looking at closer to 7 to 10, which is still fine. But where you're taking him, I think it's just a little bit too high. Next guy on my do not draft list is tight end Travis KELCE. Now, Travis KELCE, he was the tight end 1 overall for 5 straight seasons. An incredible feat. Absolutely incredible feat. This was the first year that he finally wasn't. He was dethroned by Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews was the number 1 fantasy football tight end last year. Here's the thing. ADP-wise, Travis KELCE is still going off the board as the 3rd tight end overall. And in redraft, he should be 1 probably. However, this is Dynasty. He is currently 32 and will turn 33 not even a month into the season. So basically, we're looking at his age 33 season for the most part. And guys at that point don't typically have great success. Gronkowski, he just retired at the exact same age, 33 years old. So he said, my body can't do it anymore. I'm hanging it up. A couple other guys tried to hang on a little bit longer. The highest points per game Jason Witten had after his age 32, 33 season, 10.3. Antonio Gates, a little bit better, 13.9. Jimmy Graham, 9 points flat. None of these guys had a top 5 season of their career, fantasy points wise, after the age of 33. So things are not going to get better for Travis Kelce. Plus, we just don't know how long this will last. Will it be 1 season? Will it be 3 seasons? But I can't imagine that he's going to stay within the top 3 tight ends for more than a year, at the most 2. And right now his ADP is 38th overall. So that means you're having to take him at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th round, right around the turn there, in order to get a guy like Travis Kelce. This is not tight end premium either. This is just standard tight end scoring. So we're passing on guys that are younger, like George Kittle with some upside. I know that there's injury history there. Darren Waller's even younger than him as well. There's a lot of guys, and I get it. Tight end gets ugly quick, but you can wait later on and get some of these young upside players, the Pat Fryermuths, Cole Kmets, that I think long-term will serve you much better. If you need Travis Kelce, sure, you can trade for him later on, but I'm not drafting him at this current ADP. All right, we went from one of the oldest players we're going to talk about to one of the youngest players talking about. Yeah, we're talking about a rookie, Drake London, wide receiver, Atlanta Falcons. I'm not drafting Drake London this year in my startups. Maybe in rookie drafts, sure. But in startups, he is currently going as the wide receiver 13, according to Sleeper's ADP. And this was done early in June. Wide receiver 13, ADP overall of 45. The receivers he's being taken ahead of is DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman Jr., Deontay Johnson, a lot of good young receivers that we've already seen at least establish wide receiver 2 seasons. We haven't seen Drake London establish anything. So unless we're saying that he is going to be the next Justin Jefferson, the next Jamar Chase, this is way too high to be taking him as a fringe wide receiver 1 on your fantasy football team already. On top of that, we know that the number 1 target is probably already established there in Kyle Pitts. And quarterback situation, much more of a downgrade than it was last year. We are looking at Marcus Mariota, a journeyman. I don't think he's going to have a breakout year with Marcus Mariota as his quarterback. Next year, we could also see Calvin Ridley potentially be coming back, and we could potentially be having multiple quarterback switches between then and now. With Desmond Ridder being drafted, I like Desmond Ridder from a fantasy perspective, but I don't know that he's a great option for your receiving game. And this could be a very bad football team that could be picking within the top 5 picks again next season. So we could be looking at them drafting another quarterback, and he's going to have to get used to another one. It's going to take a while for him to be able to pay off this ADP. And chances are you'll be able to actually get him cheaper next year than you would this year if you're still in love with Drake London. I think the ADP of 13 is just too high for me to take. His ADP overall is 44, but wide receiver 13. So you're also taking him in that same, ADP of 45, one off our next guy's ADP of 44. We'll talk about him in a second. But I think it's all risk. You're paying for him to be a wide receiver 1 now without ever actually seeing if he can be a wide receiver 1 or not at the NFL level. Last but not least, Antonio Gibson. I'm not drafting Antonio Gibson this year at his ADP. Chances are I'm probably not drafting him at all. His ADP right now, I mentioned it a second ago, is 44. Yes, he's the 44th player off the board. I can't touch that. I can't touch that because all we saw this offseason was that there are touches being taken away. We thought for a second that the sky opened up and he's going to be getting all the carries, he's going to be getting all the receiving work, and he's going to be a top 5 back. Well, J.D. McKissic decided to return to the Washington Commanders. That takes away a chunk of that receiving workload. Then with 3rd round draft capital, they end up taking Brian Robinson, the running back for the Washington Commanders, formerly of the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's pretty good draft capital for a running back. On top of that, he's a between the tackles bruiser. If he's going to do something effectively, it's going to be short yardage and goal line. So now the most 2 valuable touches that a player can have at the running back position is catching passes and touchdowns. He's not going to get nearly as many as he would, as a lot of other players in his similar spot would. He's being taken ahead of Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Walker, and ETN in order in drafts right now. I would easily rather have all 4 of those players ahead of Antonio Gibson. And there's some guys later, even after him, that I would rather have as well. Antonio Gibson, yes, we were all enamored with his upside, but right now, the juice just really isn't worth the squeeze with Antonio Gibson. All right, guys, those are my four. That's right, four guys that I am not drafting this year according to their current ADP from Sleeper. Before we get out of here, though, let me talk to you real quick about Prize Picks. Prize Picks, promo code NERDS, 100% deposit match. You want to get those parlays, you want to get those futures bets, go over to prizepicks.com today. Get in the action.